All right, welcome back everyone. In today's part 2 video, we're going to be looking at how I installed this Airspool hybrid mini-split air conditioning unit behind me here in my garage to cool things off because it's been getting very hot in here lately with the summer approaching. So in today's video, we're going to unbox the Airspool unit to show you what sort of things are included and what sort of tools you're going to need. I'll show you how I mounted the inside cassette inside my garage. I'll show you how I drilled the 2.5-inch hole needed to run the line set out through my cinder block walls, how I used a hurricane rated mini split wall mount to mount the outside compressor, and then I'll show you how easy it was to make the outside line set connections for the pre-charged refrigerant lines with the compressor. And lastly, we'll cover some of the cool features of the Airspool app. And since solar powered air conditioners are kind of new, you should probably be healthfully skeptical on real world performance. So I'll also cover that later in the video. All right, so let's get started with the unboxing. So we have a packing checklist from Carol. Thanks, Carol. And lots of goodies. Let's see what's inside here. So we've got a really nice manual included, and it's got full color pictures, written in English, not odd translations or anything like that. I've read the PDF version online several times and also bothered, I think, the owner quite a bit, but they've been very helpful with all my pre-sales annoying questions. So I'm pretty confident that this should go pretty easily. Look at that. It even has really nice gloves. Look at that. I think there's some insulating tape probably for the line set. Looks like a MC4 disconnect tool, and look, even MC4 connectors, so we can recrimp some lines. It looks like some various zip ties and electrical tape, so they've really included everything, and I think this is even, feels like wall putty or something to kind of fill in the holes with. So I'm going to put all this to the side for a moment. Take a generous amount of MC4 cables. Okay, so here's the remote control. Got a nice holder included. So you need to make a 2.5-inch hole to route all the line sets through for the mini split, and they've included this rather beefy looking hole saw for that job. Looks like it's carbide tipped. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use this since I have about 8 inches of cinder block to get through, but we'll see. So let's take the plastic off the inside portion of the Airspool unit. I think I'll leave the cling wrap on for now so I don't get any scratches on the inside unit here, but here's a look at the back. Looks like there is a removable filter. And taking a look on the back side here, you can see the tube for the condensation drain and the line sets all kind of tucked in here. So later on, we're going to have to unfold all this. This is the mounting bracket. And it looks like here we have the communication cable. All right, so inside the box holding the compressor, we have some more packaging. This was definitely well packed to survive the trip, that's for sure. That looks pretty good. So this outside condenser I'm going to mount to hurricane rated wall straps instead of using a hurricane rated concrete pad, which was a lot more difficult for a DIY type of setup. So the back of the condenser has the insulated line sets with their plug and play connections that we'll get into later. Here's a shot of where the communication cable goes into. Here's where the MC4 cables come out of. So before I mount this Airspool condenser on my outside wall, I'm going to go ahead and attach the inside unit to my inside wall. So the first thing I want to do is mount the inside cooling cassette of the Airspool. So we need to remove the mounting bracket, and that's held in place by this screw here. So let's take that out first. So what I'm going to try to do in my case is repurpose one of these hangers for the shelf cabinets that my garage system has. And I'm going to actually try and mount the supplied Airspool bracket onto it so that I can then mount it on my garage wall here without having to drill any masonry holes. So I've made some progress here with my idea of attaching the included Airspool bracket to a gear track cabinet mount from Gladiator Garage Works, which is what these slat wall systems for here. And I'm using machine screws and the recommended attachment points from the instructions. And down here at the bottom and the lower bracket supports, I still need to put screws through here. So I'm going to add some wood blocking to make up the gap. But by having this on the gear track, I'm able to line things up exactly where I want it. As far as centering, I can move this left and right. And according to the Airspool manual, on this top hole here on the bottom right bracket, I need to measure over 6.5 inches, which I've marked on the wall, and this is where we're gonna create our 2.5 inch diameter hole. So I'm gonna try and do is create a pilot hole through the block wall here using my concrete bit that I'll then use later to track through the 2.5 inch hole saw. So I'm drilling with a 15-degree down angle to help with the condensation line gravity flow. Time to get more serious. The included hole saw is an SDS bit. So I'm going to use my SDS hammer drill to see if I can get through this a little bit faster now. Should have started with that, and it does look like I hit a hollow spot in the block, so that's going to be convenient for later, except they need to get a bigger bit to get through the other side. So I remembered I had a longer, less dull bit, and I'm going to go ahead and use that to punch the rest of the way through. All right, we have daylight with our pilot hole. Now to follow it with the larger 2.5-inch hole saw. So from what I can tell, it looks like I did find the hollow portion of the block wall, so I'm going to try and use the smaller included hole saw that came with the kit instead of this giant core bit that I bought, but I'll retain this one just in case. I think this is carbide on here, so it should bite through the wall. We'll see. I'm not going to use hammer. That's not good for carbide, so I'm just going to use rotary mode only. All right, so we're gonna finish making the hole on the outside of the house now so that we have a nice clean circle instead of a terrible breakout. All right, so with a combination of drills and drill bits, I was able to get through my cinder block wall here, as you can see. I like that this detachable guide bit let me do the initial punch through, and that the shank here was compatible with my SDS hammer drill, which let me make short work of my concrete walls. And I think the depth would work for most people's wall thickness unless you're using it in, like 8-inch cinder blocks like I was, in which case I am glad that I picked up this larger core bit. Both pilot bits were close enough in size that I was able to use the same line of attack to get a straight line through the wall. And if you want to learn more about this particular bit, I'll leave the information down in my video description. The teeth still appear to be pretty sharp after all that drilling. All right, now I've got the blocking in place. The brackets are now securely mounted. Everything's all set to go to mount the air spool, and we need to route the lines through this hole. Now that we have the air spool bracket attached to the garage wall, we can now mount the air spool unit onto it. So what we need to do is unbend the line set. This is a soft copper line, so we have to provide a pivot point with our hands to unbend this perpendicular and then feed that through this hole. I've already got the communication cable going outside. We need to do the same thing with the condensation line, and then finally the line set. So I'm going to start by unbending this. I'm just feeding the condensation line through the wall. Now the line set. All right, so now we have the air spool mounted, so let's go around the outside and see if the lines made it through okay. So the air spool air conditioner lines made it through the garage wall. Tracking down here, we're gonna try and mount the condenser on the wall using a special hurricane rated engineered hurricane mount. So this is a stainless steel mini-split wall mount from a company called Diversitech. It has engineering certifications to use in hurricane zones. It feels really solid, no vibrations, but the included instructions were terrible at listing the parts in order of operation. The mini-split wall mount included rubber vibration dampers to go under the mini-split's feet, which we're setting it on top of now, before tightening it down with bolts and washers. And then I used my hand as a pivot to gently bend the refrigerant lines down the wall, being careful not to kink the copper. So now we're just connecting the line sets, and you're supposed to hand tighten them, and these need to go all the way together. There should be no gap. All right, so both lines are connected. There's not supposed to be any gap here, and there's not. Got them all sealed, I think. Now we have our connections here. I connected the data cable on the other side here. That went in real easy. You just slide that in and twist, and it locks in place. Now we're using the included black electrical tape to make sure that this white insulation is tightly wrapped around any exposed copper. As a first pass, I'm just looking at the instructions here to make sure you don't miss anything. Now we're going to use the included foam insulation tape to finish up here and cover any exposed copper bits. So Airspool also included this penetration sealing putty, so that bugs and stuff don't get in my garage now that I have a 2.5 inch hole. I'm gonna work that in there. And we also have a hole sleeve included. And it comes apart like a hat, so I should be able to fit this in. Once I caulk that in, that should be pretty good. All right, so now that we've connected the Airspool's refrigerant lines to the condenser outside and wired that to the solar array's incoming power, you can see that we do in fact have cold air coming out of the Airspool. And I've had the Airspool Mini-Split running for a few days now, so I could get a general feel for how it operates under different conditions and over time. We've had some really hot days, some rainy days, and some cloudy days. And over the past few days, it's been consistently like 94 degrees Fahrenheit and above, and the garage is able to get down to about 77, sometimes 76 degrees Fahrenheit. And right now that's in a worst case scenario because I've done nothing to air seal the garage or add any insulation to it. Right now it's just the bare metal. And as you can see here on the FLIR cam, that's getting quite hot. So the Airspool is just doing battle all day with the radiant heat coming off of this 2-car garage, which is almost like having a open door here. My next step is going to definitely be to add some insulating panels to this door so that I can block that radiant heat transfer and maybe drop another few degrees so that I could be down to, I don't know, maybe 72 degrees in the garage with it being 94 degrees outside, using completely solar energy. The Airspool requires about 250 watts to start making cold air and 1,000 watts at its peak usage. My 1600 watt array begins producing enough watts at about 9 a.m. and is able to run the compressor until about 5 p.m. or so before going into fan-only mode. But of course you can supplement with AC power from an extension cord to power at night or cloudy periods. And that brings us to this handy Airspool app, which shows you your PV and AC inputs. Right now it's nighttime and I have the Airspool off, but if I push on the power button in the center here, it should start things up and show me my current thermostat settings. Since there's no sun right now, all the power is coming from the AC input, and you can see the AC input watts slowly climbing here. But let's say you want it to be more energy conscious and not use so much AC power when the sun is not shining. There is an AC limiter option down here under the More Options menu. And now that I've selected AC limiter, you should notice that the AC input watts slowly start to decrease. You can also control the fan oscillation with the vertical and horizontal louvers. As well as the fan speed itself, you can have it on auto, low, mid, high, or turbo. And you can leave the Airspool in auto mode, or you can explicitly say to go to a cold, hot, wind, or dry setting. Dry is going to run the fan at lower speed to remove more humidity out of the air, versus cold, which is going to try to prioritize cooling the space, and wind, which is just going to run the fans. You also have the option of setting up a cloud schedule to set on and off times for various days of the week. So right now I have it shutting off at midnight and turning on at 8:15 a.m. in the morning. What I do wish was included was the ability to change the temperature at different times as well, which the app does not let you do currently. And if you're someone that likes statistics, you can go under historical electricity data and show you how much solar versus grid power consumption you've been using to cool your space. And down at the bottom here, you can see your total watt hours saved. So let me know your thoughts on solar air conditioning in the comments section. Likes and subscribes are always appreciated, and thanks for watching.